Okay, thank you very much for joining us. It's quite a time. You can just do a wave and I'll know that you're alive and that everyone can hear me. The way that these Zoom webinars work, this particular version of it is I mute everybody coming on stream, and the reason I do that is to ensure that we have a good quality sound. I need to get through the content quite quickly because I know that time is precious for everybody. There will be an opportunity at the end of this to engage in some Q&A, which we'll do so through a web form. I want to start off immediately with this opening slide. Everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth or the face. It was a quote from Mike Tyson, and he's so right with it. The best plans that we all set out at the beginning of this year have fundamentally changed. But I want to move immediately away from this because we have now been punched in the mouth. And I want to talk about this particular fellow over here. That's what a winner looks like. So in I think it was in 1999 or 1998, Mike Tyson sat with a record of 48-0. He hadn't lost a fight. And not one of his fights had gone on beyond 5 rounds. Then he was due to line up and fight Evander Holyfield, who was still waiting for his ear cartilage to be healed, because in the previous fight, Mike Tyson had taken a chunk out of it. A weird kind of boxer's love bite, one could say. And in the interim, Don King, the promoter of Mike Tyson, decided that he needed to rev up the audience and get people more excited. So they found this no-name brand, a chap called Buster Douglas, and said, hey, listen, mate, because he was living in the UK, are you interested in a bout? We'll pay you $100 and we'll pay Mike Tyson $80 million. And for the $80 million, I'll take at least $75 million as Don King, which is the way that these boxing promoters work. So they set this up as a no-name brand, no-name fight. In the 8th round, Mike Tyson, with a right hook, knocked Buster Douglas to the ground. In the 10th round, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson. Winners are people who get up after they're punched in the face. That's it for motivation. I'm going to get practical very quickly now. So it's Surviving the Corona Economy. It's a business owner's guide. My name is Pavlo Phitidis. We have all our resources around the Corona economy available for free to everyone and everyone who is a business owner. I think that, quite frankly, we're the most important tribe that exists within any society, within any economy. The stats are there to show it, that we are the job generators. The stats are there to show it, that we create vibrancy and innovation. The stats are there to show it, and I dare anyone counter this, that we are the true engines of an economy. Yet in this environment where we have received a massive punch in the face, an economic shock, without a doubt, we are the most vulnerable. And we're the most vulnerable for a number of reasons. First off, poor economic policy over the last 10 years has really slowed the economy down. And we have not cornered markets in the same way that big corporates have had the opportunity to. And as a result of that, we've had to work for at least 2-3 months ahead in every month that we're working in. This then has been compounded negatively by Eskom, as we all well know. It's left most of us with very, very thin reserves. And now with this economic shock, if we don't act fast, but really fast, we will lose our businesses. Today I'm going to talk very specifically around landlords, but it begins with you first. This lady, her name is Kubler-Ross. She was a Swiss-German psychologist. She committed her entire life. She's almost like a scientific Mother Teresa. She committed her entire life to understanding grief. What happens to somebody when they lose a loved one? What do they go through, and how do you manage them through the process? And what she said is we go through a number of different scenarios. Let me see if I can get my annotation tool up. It's not offering me my annotation tool for some reason, which is a bit frustrating. Nevertheless, I don't need it. She said that you go through shock. Has it really happened? You go through denial. Surely it's not happening. You go through frustration. A frustration is when a change, a negative change, a perceived negative change has occurred in your life. I don't think it's perceived. I think that when you lose a loved one, it's very, very real. And then you go down into depression. And the trick is to get someone from depression to experiment a new way of living without that person, and from there to make decisions on how to create a new life, and through that new habits, and integrate it into your everyday life. And that's what habits are about. All of us are going through this. All of us will go through this a number of times over the next 3 weeks. As we realize that time is going by, and what we thought we might be able to achieve in the week ahead, perhaps we haven't been able to achieve, we're going to go back from experimentation into denial, into frustration, and into depression. The reality is, in any battle, when you land at the front of that battle, you do not have the luxury to think and ponder. The only thing you can do is act. And you need to think as you act, because your truth will be found in that action. And what I mean by that is this. If you're going to move left as opposed to right, move left. But if you keep on getting shot at and your life is at risk, stop. Go back. Go right or go forward. Find the direction where you're getting some sort of traction and some sort of positive success, and continue to do that. Over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to be running webinars on probably 2 to 3 times a week on how we're going to make use of the time that we're now going to live in through this lockdown. But before we do that, we've got to batten up the hatches. And today, when I talk about that, specifically, I'm referring to dealing with landlords. So let's work with truths very quickly so we can get through the emotion of the Kubler-Ross curve, ensuring that we get to the place of action and accelerate through shock, denial, frustration, and depression. Absolute truth, you're born. Absolute truth, you will die. Hopefully, your business won't. And if you do the right things, I can assure you it won't. Absolute truth, you cannot change another person. Only another person can change themselves. You can persuade, you can negotiate, which is what we'll be talking about today with landlords, and then you can act. If somebody doesn't work with you and you think that your action is required and necessary for you to survive, I'm sorry, but you have to leave them behind. We have always lived in a world of great uncertainty. It feels crazy at the moment. You know, I got a note today from one of our business owners. They're saying, so we've had economic mismanagement, we've had Eskom, we've had Corona, and I just discovered this morning that my son's school hall burned down. Can you imagine what that must be feeling like? There was someone who was positive yesterday, a new piece of news emerges, and immediately they're right back into the depression stage of the Kubler-Ross theorem on how we manage our emotions in crisis. I'm going to implore you, please do not get lost in a screen. With the 3 weeks that we have ahead of lockdown, ensure that you spend it productively, usefully, and practically engaging through a screen. It's very easy for someone to set the idea on doing something, and then very quickly you go down a rabbit hole. Next minute you watch a YouTube video, and next minute the manipulation of Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube itself puts content in your face that just takes you down a negative curve. It's critical that we manage our certainty by avoiding putting ourselves in positions where we doubt ourselves. The is sacred. Carl Jung, a famous psychologist, said it. Not what could be, should be, ought to have been. The actions you took 3 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, were the best actions you could have taken at that point in time. Do not reflect back in this period. Face forward and go into the battle, but do so through stepping, not sitting, not pondering, not wondering what ought to have been or could have been. The most important thing, the one thing you have 100% control over, and I bang away on this every time because it is such an important point, is your attitude. The attitude you hold towards the landlord, towards the next 3 weeks, towards what happens after the 3 weeks, is how it will happen. Because your attitude guides the way you behave. It guides the way you think. It guides the way you feel. It is the single thing that determines the outcome of any action. If you get the right attitude, you will get the right action. Right now, that attitude is you need to act, and you need to act agilely. Don't hunt, well, goats don't hunt, but think about what a goat does. It has its horns at the back of its head. It faces its target. It puts its head down and it charges until it hits that target. But when the target steps aside, the goat carries on running until it reaches the end of the cliff and eventually goes over. What a leopard does, it sees its prey, it reads the wind. It takes 3 steps. It then sees where the prey is, looks at the terrain, rereads the wind, which might have changed direction, and then works from there. Over the next 3 weeks, being a leopard is going to be far more important than being a willful bull or goat. I want to talk about context over here, because I'm going to talk about 3 strategies to negotiate with your landlord. You will either be in a low, medium, or high risk scenario. And the reason it's important is because when you negotiate with the landlord, it's really crucial that you do so authentically, sincerely, and honestly. The reason I say that is because if you don't get cooperation, you're then going to fight. And when you fight, you need to have the moral high ground on your side. Because I can assure you that South Africa will back you. Right now, in the US where we do business, in the UK where we do business too, I've been watching with extensive interest in those businesses that have done the right thing in the right way, how they are praised and lauded in social media. And those businesses that have opted to be opportunistic or not do the right thing as perceived in general moral terms are being slated in social media. If you do the right thing because you're being authentic and honest about your business in negotiation with the landlord, you will come out on top of it. If the landlord chooses not to cooperate, then you're simply going to proceed with what you need to do to survive your business. So let's have a look at what it looks like. Incidentally, all of this will be shared. I said so earlier, it remains so, and all the previous webinars on the Corona economy and battle plans for the Corona economy will be available as a free resource. If you look at this, we've got high exposure in red, moderate exposure in orange, and we've got low exposure in green. This is Moody's interpretation of how industries will be impacted and affected. The strategies you deploy in your business need to measure and manage the high exposure, moderate exposure, low exposure industries themselves. And here's the reason why. Your landlord is not going to be approached by you alone. I'm pretty confident they're going to be approached extensively by other businesses that might be in similar industries to you. To the extent that you are being authentic around what industry you're in and therefore what threat you face to the sustainability of your business, that message will be compounded and amplified from other players and competitors you work with who might well have the same landlord. The reason I say it's highly likely is because the South African property environment is highly, highly concentrated. For some reasons, unbeknownst to me, which has never made sense, our competition tribunal has allowed property owners to acquire more and more and more properties, creating a very, very concentrated environment. That's why they behave often in a perceived manner as bullies. Sometimes they genuinely are, but sometimes they can simply behave that way unwittingly because they have such a powerful position. When you approach that landlord and you are, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry, and you're going to be asking for tax breaks, and you're going to be asking for rental breaks and rental holidays, it is profoundly insincere. Whereas if you are an event management business, you're going to ask for it, and whether they agree or not, you're going to institute it. They know that you're in a high exposure environment. If you're involved in any kind of people, social economy environment, if you're a gym right now, you're going to be asking for it too. It's authentic, it's genuine, it's fair. And those landlords that do cooperate and work with you, Return the favor, and I'll tell you how we're going to do that shortly. So, how do you engage the landlord? It feels a bit like this. You can see I'm obsessed with rands. And I am, genuinely, because when those two guys hit their heads together, it's remarkable how their skulls have been developed. Skulls actually have spaces in it and shock absorption capability to withstand the blow. And all of us as business owners understand rejection. Any of you who have not been rejected in your lives, well, welcome to the new world. I think you're going to experience it first and foremost. But there is a way to take the initial no and to come back and fight again. Because if you don't fight as a ram, you won't have the opportunity to propagate your species. If you don't fight for your business, you won't have one in 3 weeks' time. The first thing we're going to do is prepare. And preparation is establish a framework, understand what's in it for me and what's in it for them. Negotiation has to result in a win-win. If someone is being unreasonable and they are simply looking for a sharp deal that favors them, then you simply proceed with your own direction. There's no longer space and opportunity there to negotiate. You simply do what you need to do to maintain and look after your business. I'm going to talk through all of these in more detail. Once you have met, you send an email ahead. I have prepared a number of email templates, which I'll make freely available, that actually design an entire strategy for you to send out to your landlords. I'm going to implore you, do not wait on this. At the end of this webinar, please go to the resources we've made available, download it. I'll make it available in Word. It is unbranded. They are my words that I use when I negotiate. In this particular instance, take it, use it as you will. Make it your own. The 3 negotiating positions will be in there. Select the one that is most honest and most authentic to your particular style of business and use that one as a letter ahead to meet with your landlord. You need to make sure that you meet either on the phone or face-to-face. I prefer face-to-face. If it can't happen face-to-face, then do so through screens the way we're working now. And then you need to conclude a deal. There are no options over here. You need to walk out with a position. And the position, the only acceptable position that must reside in your mind is that I'm going to do what I need to do for my business to survive the month of April. Because the last man standing at the end of April will be the business that rapidly grows. So let's get into it. 3 deal structures, high to low. High deal structure, high risk. High risk, you're looking for a complete rental holiday. Medium risk, you're looking for a reduction. Low risk, you want to mitigate the risk by variabilizing your rent. High risk, the only option is for a rental holiday. I would go for 6 months. And the reason I would is we've already felt the impact of Eskom. We've already felt the impact of the last 3-4 weeks of the corona economy. And I think that after the end of this 3-week period, it's going to take time for the economy to recover. The amount of money that will be sucked out of the economy, where people simply have to survive, means that when you negotiate, try and negotiate for an extended holiday period so that you have time to recover as well. Your objective is survival. Within that, before the corona economy, you must be able to demonstrate that you have a sustainable growing business. Talk about your results from January, February, March, or the last 6 months of results. Be transparent about them and show and indicate that your business was sustainable. During the corona economy, you must prove that your current growth rates or your income levels are going to be severely compromised. We all know the impact of the social economy, because all of us are in the same ocean at the moment. We might have different boats, there might be different sizes, they might be propelled and powered by different energies, whether it be propellers or wind or whatever the case might be. But everyone has the lived reality of what's happening in the economy at the moment. You must show that your revenue has vanished because of social distancing and isolation. It's very easy if you're an event management business. If you do wedding bookings, it's very, very easy. If you're associated to the hotel hospitality space, it's super easy. If you're a restaurant, it's a no-brainer. If you're in retail, it's even more clear because we all need 23, 24, 25 days of trade in retail in order to secure the profits in the last 3-4 days of every month. It's crystal clear. We know it's authentic, we know it's real. You must show that with absolute authenticity and sincerity. After the corona economy, you must talk to what your plans are. You must demonstrate how you intend to get your business up and running again. And a key crucial element of this, which I implore you to think about, is your team and your staff. Negotiate with them in such a way that you hold on to them. Because I can assure you that when you have to restart your engines, to do so without key members of your team will become impossible. Those of you that manage to negotiate with your team to stay on board during this period, to be ready for after this period, and to work with you during this period, and I'll talk about how to do that next week, because there are ways. This is not a holiday for your team. It's a time where you and your team can do a lot of tidying up of the business, neaten up a lot of things, optimize a lot of the engines that drive your business, and get ready to hit the economy hard the moment the lockdown has been withdrawn, whenever that may be. Show that you are thinking in terms of that, so that your landlord knows you intend to stick around, you will be around, and most importantly, post the economy, the corona economy, you are well geared to win in it. How are you going to do this? You want a rent reduction of 95% with immediate effect from the 1st of April. That is what you're requesting. You want to reassess it after 3 months. In other words, if we are in the corona economy, it would be reinstated, but you want to reassess it after 3 months. Should we remain in a lockdown period or a very severely hampered corona economy, you want to extend it for a further 3 months. We're talking about a 6-month period over here. I do not believe that this is going to last less than 6 months. I really think that the impact of this is going to be quite profound. Hopefully, I'm wrong, but let's prepare for the worst. And the reason it's so important is you don't want to renegotiate again and again and again and again. When you negotiate for a rental holiday, you need to be sure that you've created significant enough runway or sufficient runway for your business to recover, your cash flow to recover, and for the engines of your business to start working again, so that you can confidently, after that period, honor the obligation and agreement that you have with your landlord to continue at a business as normal rental rate. What's in it for your landlord? A tenant. A tenant, damn it. A tenant. I can promise you, already there is capacity in factories, there's capacity in yards, there's capacity in retail stores, there's a lot of capacity in offices. There's more accommodation than there are tenants at the moment. And if a landlord says to you, but look, Jack, after this, in any event, I will simply fill the space, they are wrong. Here is the reason why. The SME economy has been obliterated in the last 3 to 4 years. For the reasons that I mentioned earlier, economic mismanagement and Eskom have made sure of it. For you to be replaced as a business, as a solid, good-going concern, the best option they can expect is a startup with an unproven track record, or nothing for up to probably 2-3 years. They would rather have you in there as a tenant than not. Tenancy in any environment creates vibrancy, creates energy, creates positivity. It creates footfall, it creates trade, whether you be in an office, a factory location, or in a yard, or in a retail store. A tenant is the first thing that's in it for them. The next thing that's in it for them is that you make a commitment to pay your version of the operating costs. After that, you would extend your lease by 6 months, should they conclude an agreement with you based on the structure. The opportunity for the landlord to make up what they have lost is no different to you wanting a deal to make up what you are losing at the moment. Quid pro quo. Do not cut sharp deals, cut fair deals. Because if you behave in that manner, it shows that you are authentic, you've got integrity, you're honest, you are serious. And being serious about this is crucial, because if you don't get the deal you want over here, you're going to, in any event, implement a rental holiday for yourself. You agree that the rent deduction should be removed if the corona economy shows itself not to extend into the 6-month period. So at any point in time, you maintain open communication with your landlord. If you've had and secured a rental holiday for 3 months and the economy happens to return back to normal, what you do is you write a thank you note ahead of your landlord making contact with you and say, please, from month 4 onward, we would like to revert back to our original rental agreement. And the reason I'm saying that, with pandemics, you have the first blip, which scares the living hell out of everybody. We've acted as a country massively positively towards this. The leadership shown by our president last night, the fact that he managed to get everyone, every stakeholder in this economy to agree, was quite remarkable. What we don't know about the COVID-19 virus is if it's going to come back again. Should it come back again, and should it come back with more vigor, and we have to suffer a similar situation, you've earned your stripes, you've earned your honesty, you've earned the relationship of trust and integrity with the landlord. If you're in business playing for the long haul, then behave that way, especially in key relationships. Medium risk, 6-month rental deduction. Again, your objective over here is to sustain your business. Before the corona economy, prove you had a viable business. During it, show how the corona economy, and now with shutdown, this impacts your absolute revenues on a month-to-month basis. After the corona economy, it's the same story again. You need to demonstrate a very positive position on how post the economy, you intend to claw back the business you've lost, but more importantly, demonstrate that you have real growth opportunities ahead of you. Not blue sky, airy, fairy stuff, absolutely not. In fact, one of the best ways to negotiate this is to say that during the 3-week period, what I have implemented is strategy battle plan 1, 2, and 3. 1, to optimize my business. 2, to keep my staff focused, motivated, and geared up and ready. And I implore you to look at the Corona Battle Plan, the previous webinar we had, where we talk about how you work with your team very specifically to gear up for growth after the economy. And then number 3, the deals that you're looking to do with potential partners in order to really capitalize on being the last man standing. How do we do this? We're looking for a reduction in rent. 15% for the first month, or 30%, or 50%, whatever it may be, aligned to which industry you're in and how it's being impacted by the corona economy. 30% thereafter, 45% thereafter for 3 months, beginning from the 1st of April. Why? The lockdown's only for 3 weeks. Why would you want this? Again, it's an opportunity to recover the lost revenues. Your margins have been thinned out because of Eskom, because of poor economic conditions generally, and your intention is to ensure that the business is stable enough and safe enough to be able to tackle post the corona economy the opportunities that you believe you will face. There's a second reason why you're looking for this. The second reason is because I don't want to have to knock on your door again. I have the opportunity to negotiate with you. You can see where I've come from. You can see how the corona economy's hit me. You can see what my battle plan to grow after the corona economy is. I believe that we might be extending beyond the 3 weeks. It might be a form of social isolation. It might be due to the fact that money isn't going to be sucked out of the economy. It will take time to recover. And that's how it impacts my type of business. And therefore, I'm looking for a 3-month deal. Again, if we remain in the corona economy post 3 months, you negotiate for a reduction of 45% until the 6th month, and you continue to reassess. What's in it for the landlord? A tenant. My previous argument holds. Operating costs are paid in full. You will continue to pay your rent, period. At a reduced rate, but you'll continue to pay rent, and you will extend your lease by 6 months in order to give them an opportunity to make up what you're currently losing in your business right now. Yeah, the rest holds. Low risk environment, same arguments. It's about sustaining, show before corona economy, show during, show after what the plan is, how. For 3 months from April, a reduction in rent by X%. Don't be greedy, be reasonable. Don't be greedy, be reasonable. If you're reasonable and if you're fair, and if it makes logical sense, and you can demonstrate how and why, and you can endure that conversation with your landlord, the instant key response is going to be no. The instant key response is going to be to talk to you about what they're losing. They're then going to talk about their response to the corona economy, saying we've done the right thing, we are now cleaning 3 times a day, those are operating costs, we have put security up, we have removed steel doorknobs and put copper doorknobs down, or whatever it may be that they tell you. That does not help you. You are there with one single objective. The objective is to sustain your business. Your objective is to get a rental deal done to take the pain out of your day-to-day risk. Or, for 3 months from April, negotiate that you want to variabilize your rent. So if you're paying 10,000 Rand a month rent, agree to pay 5,000 Rand, and then say, for the remaining 3 months, I will pay you a percentage of my turnover, which would equate to the 5,000 Rand loss. If your turnover sustains, the landlord gets 10,000 Rand. If it drops because of the corona economy, they will get slightly less on that basis. It's key to variabilize your fixed operating costs. It's your fixed operating costs that can sink you when you have little or no or slow down revenue coming into the business. You want to stabilize the base and batten down the hatches. I like the variable one. It's harder to implement, but it gives real eyes and real understanding to your landlord about how your business is performing within this environment. Reassess after 3 months. If we're out of the corona economy, revert back. If we remain in the corona economy, stay in for 6 months. What's in it for your landlord? It's the same 5 things. A tenant, number 1, operating costs are paid, so you're covering their operating overheads. You will continue to pay rent for that period. Extend the lease by 6 months. Give them the opportunity to make it up again, because that's what fair trade is all about. Let's just talk about negotiation. Remember the Kubler-Ross: shock, denial, frustration. I experienced anger. I don't get frustrated. Mind you, frustration and anger are pretty much the same thing. It takes you down into depression. You experiment, you learn what works, and when you see what works, you integrate that into your new way of working or living. You are going to go through your own cycle. They, as an organization, will go through their own cycle. And as an individual that you're speaking to, he or she will go through their own cycle. There's going to be a tremendous amount of conflict between heart, feelings, head, logic, technical thinking. It's an emotional time. I think it's important that when you speak to a landlord, you understand that you are speaking to a human being. It's useful to understand if your landlord is partnered or single. If they are partnered, do they have kids or not? If they do have kids, are those kids at school or not? And what are the circumstances between them and, say, for example, their parents? There are a lot of people in the kind of 40, 50-ish, late 30-ish age group that are stuck in the sandwich generation. Can you imagine, and a lot of you can, what it's like for them? All of a sudden, you have at your homes no domestic support. You have to become a teacher. You have to become a partner to a partner. You have to be the parent to your children, your kids. You have to look after your own. Incomes are going to soften, if not dampen, if not end. There might only be one income left. The environment is hellish. And then on top of it, a lot of those individuals have got older folks that they've got to care for, where they have to do the shopping for them, and they've got to try and keep them in isolation. Everyone is going through this. When you negotiate with your landlord, yes, I know it's an organization, but there is a person there. And when you negotiate, it's always important to connect first before you get into the technicalities of what you're looking for. It's also a rational argument. Prepare and be honest. Be authentic. Don't be flowery. Don't be spontaneous. Be straight to the point, simple, with clarity. Give evidence behind every argument. And let the person see that you're negotiating with, that you are that person that they could trust, so that when they make a call, they themselves feel that they have not been duped. It's really important that there is no one winner over here. A sharp deal is not sustainable. The only deal that's sustainable is one where you're both equally uncomfortable, but it's a win-win playing into the long term. Most will say no. Guys, you persist. And by persisting, I'm saying phone 10 times a day. Go to their offices, go park outside of their homes. Demonstrate that this is not negotiable. The meeting has to be had, because if the meeting's not had, you will implement in any event. And you will do so because you have very little to lose. It's important that you communicate that, not as a threat ever, but as a standard position, rationally put across, so that they understand they themselves don't have an option but to come to the negotiating table with you. When you're at the battlefront, you don't ask the lieutenant, should I go left or right? If the lieutenant says go left, but you can see that's where the enemy's machine gun is aimed, only, well, do I need to say it? The people that go there will not be the last men standing. It's pretty obvious. If your business is under severe threat, you need to behave and act with that, and in that manner, to say the meeting has to be had. Be creative. You're going to go in with a point of view. You're going to go in apprehensive, you're going to go in nervous. You're going to go in locked and loaded, willful that you will emerge with your deal. Beware of that, because what it does is it makes you misunderstand words that are being used in a negotiation. It makes you misread how people are responding and reacting. When you walk into my office and you're negotiating with that, almost what's perceived to be an aggressive stance, trust me, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to get ready to fight back. Different people respond differently. It's really important you connect on a human level first. Use heart before you move into head. And that's why I'm saying, make it personal. Make it personal to you and your life, make it personal to your staff, and make it personal to that landlord. Irrespective if they say, I'm just doing my job. And then your response is going to be, and I'm doing mine too. So let me help you get your job done properly. What I'm offering you is a tenant, operating costs, and long-term revenues with an extended lease. But for me to give you that, which secures you doing your job, I need this. Be objective driven. Don't get bullied. Don't get bashed out. You will in the beginning. In the beginning, it's going to be an outright no. And then you persist. Because the answer to no from you is why. And when an answer is given, ask why again. And when that answer is given, ask why again. Not in an aggressive way, not in a combative way, but in a way to seek to understand. Because when you seek to understand, it opens your mind to alternative suggestions and alternative ideas. They may well, and I'd be very surprised if any landlord out there is not thinking in this term, they may well be thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to our business? What's going to happen to our returns? What's going to happen to our income? And when somebody says, but Jack, you know what? We're a listed entity and we have to serve our shareholders. Again, you reframe it in such a way that in what you're doing, you are there to show you will pay operating costs for the long to medium term with an extended lease that is in favor of shareholders. Do not be dismayed, and you hold your position. Remember, your words will be measured by your behavior. You will be measured by your behavior in the way you behave. If you behave as a partner because you perceive your landlord as a partner. You may not feel that, but if you adopt that attitude, the way you behave will represent that attitude, and the outcome you will get will be something aligned to it. If you don't find agreement in those instances, you're simply going to implement because you own the moral high ground. Guys, this is not personal. There's not one business out there that will not be affected, not one. Some will gain, many will hurt. If you are one of the lucky ones that play nicely and neatly into the corona economy, I'm imploring you, think about your suppliers, think about your staff, think about the partners and stakeholders that make your business operate and work. Don't try and be clever Dick. Don't try and do, hey, the sun is shining, I'm going to make hay, because when you make hay and everyone else there is suffering, what happens post the corona economy will be extremely unpleasant. It took telecom years and years and years for people to forget that they used to call it Hellcom. They let us down as a nation for many, many years, and they were branded Hellcom for a long time. When the mobile networks came about, I know people who simply cut their landlines, even though the mobile costs were more expensive, but simply to get back at telecom. Let's remember, as business owners, if we're building assets of value, we're playing into the long term. The strategy for you, last man standing. You want to emerge post-corona economy with an opportunity to make up the gains you've lost. And if you play this right in this period, you will, because a lot of your competitors are going to fall by the wayside. I just want to leave you with a message. We are in your corner. Just to give you a sense, we ourselves have built 12 businesses. We've built, sold them over a 9-year period. We got a 448% return on it. We learned through doing. We never learned through MBAs or books or anything like that. Everything I share with you, I hope will be fundamentally practical and implementable in the moment, if not the next day. We've worked with over 2,500 businesses in South Africa. Currently, our largest client does 1.5 billion rands worth of revenue, and our smallest does around 8 or 9 million rands worth of revenue, cross-sector, cross-industry. And what that does is it gives us a rich opportunity to get perspectives. What you need in your business that you normally are managing on your own or with your partner is to get alternative points of view, alternative perspectives. I intend to offer that, and I intend to do so openly and freely. Mindset, we're going to be talking a lot about that in these webinars. Strategies and tactics to contain costs. Government and corporate, what they ought to be doing. Those who are, congratulations. Those who aren't, well, let's talk to them. I've already written letters to all the banks and to all the big landlords, anticipating that we would be locked down. The letters went out last week with suggestions on how they could work with us as SMEs. There's going to be a lot of housekeeping. I think over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to do a lot of thinking and work on how you can yourself improve the performance of your business, even though it might not be trading, how you can work with teams through digital screens, the tasks you can give to your teams in order to optimize performance in the business, and how you can prepare to ramp up and accelerate post the corona economy. There will be certain sector and industry specific webinars that I run because certain sectors and industries are implicated and impacted uniquely. I'm going to go from next week, we'll have 2 to 3 webinars a week. When I respond back to you on the back of this, sending you this recording, but also sending you this toolkit that I'm going to be offering you, please respond back and tell me what you want covered so we can respond to it. From next week, all our webinars will be interactive. The resources are all available at auric.com. You simply click on the blog that says the Corona Economy. That will take you through to a resource page where there will be a recording of this webinar. If you have found it useful and helpful, share it with all your suppliers and all your customers. Their well-being and sustainability is as important as yours. Obviously, all businesses are interlinked. Share it with your industry, share it with your sector. For most of us as business owners, we happen to make friends with other business owners. Share it widely because we together have to stick together. I've given a draft letter to the landlord. It's a one-pager. It's got the 3 or 4 different deal structures on it. Please take it, use it openly, use it freely. It's not copyrighted. Change the words to your style. If you think it works the way it is, use it as your opening letter to secure a meeting. Please respond with specific questions you want answered and any other further topics you want covered. You'll find this all on the resource page at that URL. And the last thing I want to share with you is, honestly, it's really worth taking a read of this book. I wrote the book in response to 10 years on radio with people saying, please can you put down the asset of value system to grow and accelerate a business in a low growth economy, simply, logically, and practically. For most of us, we're not readers, but the book has been dramatized. There are 11 stories there of people just like you and me, all of whom built businesses in very, very tough times. It's practical, there's a little bit of humor in it, but mostly you'll be able to implement it. With that, I'm going to end the webinar. Please respond to the resource page that I sent through to you. And for those of you attending, if you found it valuable, pass it on to the rest of the world and let us as SMEs unite in a tribe and figure out our own responses. I'm planning to have my next webinar on how you negotiate with SARS, and that'll probably run on Thursday. I have made contact with the SARS Commissioner, Professor Edward Kisvetter. He's putting me in touch with certain individuals over there because I'm going to be sharing with them the presentation that I will be making this week on Thursday. I might be saying certain things in that aren't entirely legal. In other words, as a business owner, do you pay SARS or do you pay your staff first? It's an ethical question. It's a tough question to answer, but it depends on what the motivation is behind your actions. I'm going to as far as possible, clear that with SARS so that I can confidently put across certain positions that I think will work for us as SME business owners before anybody else. And with that, I thank you. I don't want to take up any more time, and look out for the next webinar. I'll see you there.